there?
Yes.
Well, I wasn't supposed to be up here, but I feel like an old cowboy that just kind of rode into town and saw a group of people there and saw some of the people that I knew real well, and I'd heard that Chris Murphy, Dr. Mellon, Tom, and a few of the other fellows like Paul Graves, Tom Yamaron was here, so I thought I'd just stop and visit with them for a little while. So here I am, folks. If you will allow me, I'll talk a few minutes about, I just got a few minutes, so I'll talk to you a few minutes about what happened those days, October 20th, 1967. But I'll start a few days before that. Roger Patterson and I were fairly good friends. We rodeoed together in the late 50s. And Roger would come by my place now and then. He'd have a big plaster cast. So he talked to me about Bigfoot. And I was riding young horses and doing my thing in my life and working for a living. And so I wasn't that much interested in the big plaster casts or Bigfoot. So I don't know if very many of you folks have ever read any of Dr. Ivan Sanderson's articles or his book. It's a great book if you ever get a chance to run onto it. It's pretty scarce this day and age. But anyway, Roger brought that book down to me, and I started reading about it, and as Chris said, Tom Slick had that expedition and so forth. And he'd bring little cassette tapes with testimonials of different people that had sighted footprints and actually had seen these creatures and knew they exist. So I got to thinking, well, gee, Bob, everybody can't be mistaken. Everybody can't be in imagining things, so there must be something out there. But I really didn't have time to go and do a lot of field research. Like I say, I was young then, and I was busy riding young horses for people and for myself. But anyway, Roger come running into my driveway one day in this little Volkswagen bus that he had, and real excited. He said, "Bob, can you take me to Northern California?" And he said, they found 3 different sizes of footprints down there around a big tank that they put in a tank, and I assumed at that time it was a diesel tank, to refuel the road graders and the cats that was trying to, starting to build logging roads back up into the mountains there in the Bluff Creek area. I said, well, I was hot roofing at that time. Went and talked to my boss. And he said, yeah, it's getting fall of the year, Bob. He said, you can take off a little while if you'd like. And I had some cattle and horses and things that I had to get taken care of before I went anywhere. And this was like right after Liberty Weekend. So I said, well, by the time I could get, and I had a one-ton truck, a dually one-ton truck with a horse span on it. And if any of you folks have got horses or what, you know what a horse span is. It's just a unit on the back of the truck to load your horses and haul them. Well, I said, well, let me get my stuff together, Roger, and I'll give it a try. So I got it all together the last part of September. And Roger and I went down to the Bluff Creek area. I had never been there before. Roger had, and told me where to go, and so we drove back in there about 35 miles from Bluff Creek and made camp. And we started riding, and I wanted to see these tracks and this fresh dirt. Well, unfortunately, it had rained up and down the west coast really hard. And when I got down there to look at these tracks, there was just big globs in the mud, in the dirt. There was no identifiable track there that I could cast to make sure that what I was seeing. So I was a little disappointed, but being as I was down there with him, we rode many miles every day, and even some evenings. When there was a full moon, we'd ride at night. And so this Saturday, October 20th, we left out that morning with a pack horse and some sleeping bags and equipment. We were going to ride about 25 miles further back in than we had ridden in the past 2 or 3 weeks if we were down there. So we were riding up the creek bed, and some of you will know what a downfall tree root system is, and this particular downfall tree was about 12, 14 feet high. The creek had rerouted itself around it. Well, then the creek started again. We were riding up the creek bed, went around this downfall tree stump, and Roger was riding in front of me. I was in back of him leading the pack horse with our sleeping bags and everything that we had on there to stay for a couple of nights up further back. The creature was standing by the creek. Roger was just a little ways ahead of me, about 2 or 3 horse lengths. And he said at one time that the creature was down, squatted down by the creek. Well, when I first saw it, it was standing up by the creek. We were on the east side of the creek. The creek was approximately 12, 15 feet across, water about that deep. And so Roger had a horse that was a little bit waspy. In other words, it just had lots of extra energy. I used to say Roger's horse blew up. Well, people would challenge me on that word blew up, because that's just an old cowboy saying, I guess. So they'd say, well, how does a horse blow up? What happens? Pieces go every which way? I said, no, no, no. Roger's horse just kind of threw a fit. Well, what kind of fit? Well, it was acting up. So he was trying to get off, get his camera out of the saddlebag, and he did. He was able to do that. Roger was a pretty agile guy because he was a pretty good little rodeo rider. He rode rough stock. And so by the time Roger got his camera out, then I was kind of gathering up what horse I had. I had a big roping horse. It was a little better broke than Roger's horse. And so I let the pack horse go. It took off back down the trail. Roger ran across the creek, and this film footage that you folks have seen over the years, when it's real shaky to start with, Roger is running, trying to get the camera. He had the camera up like this. He ran across that shallow creek, and on the other side, on the west side of the creek, the bank kind of went up like that from the sandbar. The sand and soil had washed down in the flood area in the 3 or 4 years prior to that, when they had all the big floods down in that area. So Roger slipped, or he just hit that sandbar and fell down. And that's why you will see all that commotion. If you folks have seen that film footage over the years, it's been around ever since 1967. And then I rode across the creek. This shot right here, when she turns like that, I rode across the creek on my big horse because Roger relocated himself, and he asked me, he said, Bob, will you cover me? Well, he had a rifle in his saddle scabbard, and I also had a 30-06 rifle in my saddle scabbard. But I rode across the creek, and I knew the creature was walking away from me steadily, just the motion of walking like he was going downtown to shop. So I had no fear of it, didn't know what it was really. I could see what it was, but it was such a surprise to me so quick. And things were happening so quick. I stepped down off the horse, pulled the rifle out of the scabbard, and stood there. If it comes back after me, as big and powerful as this creature is, I wouldn't have a chance. I never raised the rifle up. I just stood there in awe, with a rope hooked to the back of my belt so my horse couldn't lead. And it just kept walking away. And like I started to say, this that you see here, and I call it a she now, I never knew what it was. It was just a great, huge creature. Had no idea whether it was female, male, or what, you know. So she made that step like that when I stepped down off that horse. And that's what you see, and that's what they use for all of this advertising and different things that you folks will see. But anyway, that's kind of my story on this, and thank you folks for coming. I meet some very good people.
Thank you, great story. Great.